Welcome, dear viewers, to InCast episode 4, and today we have yet another IELTS Band 8.5 holder, Rano Valiyeva. Rano, would you please be able to introduce yourself a little bit more to us?
Yes, of course. I'm actually almost 21 years old. I'm turning 21 this summer. I have recently graduated from the University of Oriental Studies here in Tashkent, and I'm actually planning to get my master's degree soon.
Oh, that's wonderful. And talking about your master's degree, where do you plan to do it now that you have 8.5? Is it going to be abroad or here?
Yes, I'm actually, now that I have my score, I'm planning to go abroad. However, I haven't decided which country I would choose yet.
Oh, that's understood. Now, that's actually a very great introduction to this episode, seeing as how with an IELTS 8.5, you are, of course, more likely to get a visa and to get accepted to universities and whatnot. So, what do you think, out of all the countries for now, which of the countries are more appealing for you personally?
I personally would like to go to Europe. UK, maybe it might be quite pricey. I would enjoy studying about such countries such as Italy or Spain. If I had a chance, I would like to go there.
Understood. And talking about Italy, what do you think in Italy is, more pleasing, more enjoyable than, let's say, UK or those other European countries, which are quite pricey?
For me, it's definitely the weather, the nature, and people. I think just the overall atmosphere of Italy is more comfortable for me personally.
Understood. That's absolutely phenomenal. Okay, so without further ado, let's just get into the brass tacks, get into the introduction of your journey to IELTS. So firstly, when did you find out about IELTS, about this weird exam?
Probably before university, so maybe 4 or 5 years ago, when I decided to apply to our university, state university. I found out if you had IELTS, it would be easier for you to get accepted.
Understood. And have you ever taken the IELTS before?
Yeah, it was about 4 years ago, as I said before entering university. So I passed IELTS exams then, and since then I haven't really studied.
Understood. And what was your very first IELTS score?
My first IELTS score was 7.5.
Wonderful. And how did you feel about getting that IELTS 7.5?
For me, back then, 7.5 was a wonderful score. It was higher than the majority of my classmates and my peers, let's say. But now, I feel that 7.5 is not enough for me. I feel like I could do more, and I actually did, so yeah.
That's phenomenal. That's a great answer. As a matter of fact, I think that in most Uzbek universities, the margin of getting into those universities with IELTS is probably like 5 or 5.5, right?
If I'm not mistaken, it's 6 or 6.5, yeah.
Oh, yeah, exactly. So having that 7.5 4 years ago already puts you on top of the passing score, right? So you probably felt a little satisfied, but you still wanted to get that higher band score, right? Just to be the best of the best. And now, well, you're in a 0.01% margin, and I congratulate you. That's absolutely phenomenal. So let's talk about your journey here in internation. Can you tell me a little bit about your teacher?
Yes, I actually studied with Mr. Bigzot. He's a phenomenal teacher. I could definitely say that I learned a lot of tactics and maybe some life hacks even about being more confident, about speaking freely and without maybe any doubts. I think that was the most important thing that I have learned. And I really enjoyed his lessons. They were really interesting. Yeah, that's it.
Understood. And what about your academic support?
Yeah, I actually studied with her, and she helped me do my homeworks, and I really enjoyed her personality as well.
Now, when you were in class, how did you think it was being conducted? Was it a little difficult? Was it a little easy? Or what was your own opinion about the classes?
To me, the classes were quite all right. I think they were as good as it can get, actually. They weren't too long or too short. I enjoyed them. I retained a lot of information during them. And I found them quite hard sometimes, especially during some writing parts. It was probably the hardest part for me.
Now, talking about writing, which one is easier for you? Because I know that the viewers, they're very split about this. Some are like writing task one, some are like writing task two. But which one did you personally find easier to tackle?
It definitely depends on a specific task. For example, during my own exam, I found that task 2 was easier simply because the topic was more relevant to me personally. Overall, I found task 1 easier.
Understood. Task one, I can completely agree with that because, you just have to look at some weird pictures, right? And then write what those pictures are showing you. However, in writing task two, you actually have to sit down and think about what's actually being composed here, right? Understood. Now let's move on to the next question, which some people actually might find this a little interesting. However, can you tell me, when did you first start learning English? Because it's not your native language.
Actually, I didn't start learning English till maybe ninth grade. I actually despised English and I studied in language school. So we had English like 5 times a week, but my level was very low and lower than my classmates. So that's why I was really demotivated about studying English in general. However, when I understood that I needed for my own purposes, for my future life, I started to actually learn it. Maybe like 6 years ago, something like that.
6 years. It's been, honestly, for getting an 8.5 and then you only started learning English when you were in the ninth grade,
Yeah.
that's actually phenomenal. I can't even lie. It's just absolutely wonderful. Let's move on to the next part about your English journey per se. When did you really start to see that progress in your linguistical capabilities?
Maybe the last 2 grades during school because I really paid a lot of attention to learning English and studying it. And I also started reading a lot back then. And I still do. I think it was the turning point for me when I actually started to understand the language.
Of course. Elaborate about reading.
Reading books. I read for my own entertainment, and I did that not because I had to, but because I wanted to. And it really motivated me to actually understand the logistics, maybe even of the language, how the world building and everything.
Of course, understood. Wonderful. And which of the English books that you have read were more appealing towards you personally?
Probably Flowers for Algernon. Yes,
That's wonderful.
yeah, that's a very nice book, and it was quite easy to read. And it was maybe one of the first books I have read in English.
Seriously.
Yes, so that's why I remember it quite vividly.
You didn't find it a little difficult to read?
Yeah, of course. I found that the harder the book is, the more interesting is actually to get to understand it. So the more challenging the book was, the more excited I got.
Of course, because you have to look through and skim and scam through different words that you probably don't even know, haven't even heard of. However, at the end of the day, how did that help you with your English?
I think I had a lot of passive vocabulary. However, I didn't really know what to do with that, and my speaking wasn't really great. I didn't practice during this 4 years. I had this gap where I didn't really study English. I only used it to maybe sometimes listen to music or maybe watch a show. So going to international actually really helped me with practicing my English and improving maybe my confidence with English, with talking English and understanding it.
All right, so can you explain, please, and elaborate about passive vocabulary?
Yes, of course. As I learned a lot through reading, I had like a vast passive vocabulary, which means I knew a lot of words and I could recognize them. However, I couldn't necessarily actively use them when I spoke or when I wrote something.
However, you didn't know what those words meant, right?
maybe the meaning I understood, but the context I couldn't quite use them right in the right way.
Of course. And now, can you tell me about how you traversed this little jungle of complex words that you have heard of before but haven't used, and how you actually flipped it upside down, turned your passive vocabulary into active vocabulary?
As I mentioned before, going to the lessons in international really helped me, and maybe speaking with with other students and with my teacher, and also learning the words when I heard someone actually speak them, because before that I didn't hear a lot of English speaking in general.
So, can you please tell me about how you dealt with stress, right? When you're in a small confined space, right? You took a paper base where you have a pencil, you have a sheet of paper. Tell me, how did you tackle your anxiety?
Actually, the first time I actually passed IELTS exam, I was so nervous and so anxious. I couldn't hold a pen straight. My hands, they were shaking the whole time. However, now that I have during the recent exam, I had a lot of confidence. I knew that it's not the end of the world if I don't pass the exam, and this thought alone helped me to get over the stress and anxiety. I knew that if I would be anxious, it would be worse for me.
Of course.
That's why I tried to maybe breathe, count to 10, and be more relaxed during my exam.
Of course, that's actually a great tip. Breathing, making sure that your conscious is clear, your mind is set and it's focused on the exam, really helps you out. This actually may sound self-explanatory, but of course, if you are in the right mindset, if you're in the right mind space, then any exam is just going to be a piece of cake for you to complete, right? So, now let's get into your band score itself, right? Now that you have IELTS 8.5, one of the highest band scores there are, what are you going to be doing with this magnificent band score?
Yeah, really, since I finished university as well, for me, this score allows me to go and get my master's degree, and I also plan on working with that band score.
Of course, do you plan to work as a teacher?
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, I'm
That is a
really
possibility.
passionate about teaching. Actually, I teach Korean nowadays.
Korean.
Yeah, yeah. Because it's my second language that I have learned. Yes, so maybe English would be a language which I will teach to other.
Of course, that does sound absolutely amazing. Now, talking about Korean, have you ever thought of flying to Korea maybe for your master's, seeing as how you know that language?
Yeah, maybe. But nowadays, now that I look at Asian countries, I don't really want to go there. Yeah, my heart belongs to English language and English speaking countries. Yeah, could definitely say that.
Of course, that's understood. So that's gonna be it. We covered some large areas here. I hope the viewers had lots of fun watching us and got educated. Do you happen to have any last words?
Yeah, I believe that consistency is the key, and I wish everyone luck.
Thank you very much. It was a pleasure.